you, man. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Two Dudes and a Mexican. I'm your host, some dude named Victor Salazar. To the left of me, some other dude named Peter Soprano.
What's up?
To the right of me, resident Mexican, Dave Quinones.
Órale, mi gente.
So we're back.
Captain America.
A week hiatus.
That's right.
We've got a pretty good show lined up for you guys. Before I go through the rundown, if you guys can, subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
YouTube.com/.
Do it. Go do it.
Two
Go
Dudes
do it.
and a Mexican. TWO. Dudes and a Mexican.
Yeah.
I didn't want to spell the whole thing out for you.
Yeah.
But you get my gist. We need more subscribers. We not take this to YouTube.
Yeah.
Anybody with a second break?
You know, if you subscribe, Pete will personally send you a Henny shot. Dave will mail you a tequila shot.
That's
I won't
true.
give you anything.
Cheap bastard.
Cheap
Come on down to
bastard
the
I
show.
am.
I got you.
Little rundown of the show. We're going to talk about the weekend that was in boxing. A lot of interesting things happened. We have a special guest, Guru Science, at Guru Science, Angel Memo Heredia, strength and conditioning extraordinaire, knows a lot about, PEDs, knows a lot about testing, steroids, all that good stuff.
Expert.
I'm not an expert, but, we'll ask him some tough questions. Then we'll talk about the trade deadline. A lot of moves were made, a lot of splashes, a lot of non-splashes. And then we'll go into, there you go. Then we go into the Yankee blogger, Bronx Pinstripes, good dude, good site. They have about 13,000, 14,000 followers on Twitter, so cool. They're a really pretty big Yankee blog. And then we'll wrap up in Tease Sunday's show. So last time we spoke, we all, except David, picked Mo Hooker to win this weekend.
That's right, baby.
Mo Hooker and Jose Ramirez. Pretty good fight. I thought it was a good fight. I mean, it's too short to be fight of the year.
I did.
I'm gonna stop doubting Jose Ramirez, but Dave, I'm gonna let you gloat. Go ahead.
No, that's all right. I don't have to glow. I mean, I did pick the winner. I did pick the winner. No, I'm just not. In all seriousness, I did pick the winner, but I did pick him with by unanimous decision. So it was a great fight. Listen.
So you even surprised you then?
Yeah. Well, with the outcome,
with
the stoppage, with the outcome. So I mean, listen, he did his thing. So who was the favorite, of course?
Ramirez was the favorite.
Was he? I thought Hooker was.
He was slight favorite. It was a 50-50 fight.
Yeah,
okay. I thought Hooker was the favorite.
Fight.
So, but listen, it was a good fight. Can't go against my paisano. You know what I'm saying? So he did his thing, and he beat a good boxer.
Unified champion. He's one of he's what is it, 6, 7? I think there's only 7 unified champions in boxing.
Yeah.
So he's one of them. And before we go further, look at the backdrop that we have. Shout out to Bogies.
That's right. Shout out to Bogies.
Real nice backdrop.
Good place.
Good place.
This is where family comes. You feel like family. When you come here, so it's a good spot.
Yeah.
So give us a nice little backdrop.
That's right.
Good food. Great drinks.
Good
also
specials.
cheap. Good specials. So just wanted to shout them out.
Wings are good.
Wings are pretty good. I rated them.
$8 wine.
$8 wine. I think. What I give them? 7 out of 10 on the wings.
Yeah. Come on.
But either way, Mo Hooker. Your thoughts on Mo Hooker and what happened and what went wrong?
I was very surprised in how it went. The reason why is because Hooker had the long reach. He's the bigger guy, and I'm very surprised that he pretty much got bullied that whole fight. He was backed up. He let Ramirez get inside. He let him go to the body, and he pretty much bullied. He got bullied by a smaller guy. So that's the part I was mostly surprised with. I thought Hooker would have been able to use his jab, and he only used it pretty much like one round to back him off, but like second or third round it was. But he didn't use his jab enough to back him off. He just let Ramirez just come forward.
And Ramirez was taking it to him.
Yeah, he was. He came right at him. He bullied him. He bullied the bigger guy. So that's the part I was mostly surprised about. But listen, all props to Ramirez. He fought a great fight, and then when he caught him, he knew how to finish. He finished him completely.
Well, I think Ramirez has evolved as a boxer. If I would have told you from, 2012? 2016, 2012 Olympic team.
Yeah.
Errol Spence, Jamal Herring, Terrell
He would have
Gaucher.
been one of the last ones he took.
Dominic Brazil.
Yeah.
Rashid Warren, Jose Ramirez, that there be.
Brown on it?
Oh no, who else was on there?
Marcus
Brown was on there.
It was pretty deep class.
Obviously Jose Ramirez.
Yeah.
Jamal Herring was on the Olympic team. All of them are pretty much either won championship or been at that world level.
Yeah.
But aside from Errol Spence, Jose Ramirez might be right up there as probably
Yeah.
Probably the best U.S. Olympian to come out that class.
Yeah.
I mean, Errol Spence, obviously known as one of the best boxers in the world right now. World class. But Jose Ramirez, little by little, establishing a long jab. Like, I haven't picked against Jose in a long time. Obviously, he hasn't fought the guys that, you know, maybe a Regis Prograis fought, or Josh Taylor in the World Boxing Super Series. But he's come along nicely. He fought Amir Iman, beat him. Mo Hooker was definitely a challenge, beat him. And now he's going to await the winner of the World Boxing Super Series, which hopefully is going to happen. Rumors out there that they haven't paid Regis Prograis the money for the final with Josh Taylor. So hopefully that happens. I mean, in hindsight, Dave, you think Top Rank did the right thing by not having him in the World Boxing Super Series, seeing that he's been active and
thank you.
You know, he might not have has a long way. Like Regis Prograis fought when, like 4 or 5 months ago.
Wow.
So we don't know when this final is going to happen.
No.
Your thoughts on Top Rank and the movement that they've had with Jose Ramirez?
Listen, I think it was okay because obviously I thought the last fight this past weekend was a good fight. So they made a good fight. You know, Jose Ramirez, like I said, you know, he looked good in this last fight. So hopefully there's better things to come. Hopefully there's matches to come. So, but you know, and that's the tough thing about obviously boxing right now because of the boxing politics and the different promotional companies. Again, you know, but there's opportunities. There's opportunities.
He did fight Hooker on the zone.
I mean,
which
got $4 million for it though.
Well, I mean, if there's money in it, of course it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But he did fight Hooker on the zone. He's on the ESPN platform.
Yeah.
And I think whoever wins Josh Taylor, Regis Prograis, whoever puts up the most money, whether it be ESPN or DAZN, I think that's where the fight should be on. So that's what I think.
Let's do it.
I asked Robert Garcia a couple months ago when they actually had the press conference for this, how would he feel about a Jose Ramirez-Terence Crawford fight? How would you feel about a Jose Ramirez-Terence Crawford fight?
It'll be.
And the only reason I say that is because they're both for Top Rank.
Yeah.
If he beats Prograis or Taylor, where else is he going to go but up? And Terence Crawford is seemingly having issues finding opponents.
Yeah.
Even though 140 stacked, all these guys are going to come up. You know, might not be a bad deal for Crawford to just wait on the guys from 140 to come up instead of, you know, trying to make fights with the other side of the street, as we call it in boxing.
Well, that's true. I would actually say that, I mean, in a fight, that's probably better for Terence to do that, even though if I'm talking about that fight itself, I just think Crawford is a little bit too big for Ramirez.
He's not. He's on a big 47.
He's not a big 47, but Ramirez isn't really even a big 140. Like,
he's a 140 pounder.
He's a number 140. He's not a big 140. So 7 pounds is still a big difference. I think Terence Crawford is growing into a legit 147. So there is a size difference between them.
It's yet to be seen because we haven't seen him fight someone that is, to me, an elite welterweight. So we don't know. Fighting Amir Khan's, fighting.
But even going along with that,
who's the other dude? The one that was drag racing this weekend, who just doesn't care about life.
Horn.
No, but Horn sucks.
Yeah. Don't say that to Burgers.
All right, yeah, that guy. Horn sucks. What was the dude that got shot? Benavidez.
Yeah.
He got caught drag racing. He gets shot.
Yeah.
You know, he's living that thug life, but he beat that guy. So he really hasn't fought an elite 147 pounder, and there aren't too many elites. You know, there's a Thurman, there's a Crawford, there's a Spence, there's a Pacquiao. The rest of the guys might just be okay guys. Like, we don't even know what Porter is. We'll see what Porter is against Spence, in my opinion.
I think Porter's in that middle range, right after the top tier.
Yeah, but
the thing about it is that even without saying he's a bigger guy, which I think he is bigger, but even without that, he's going to be able to use his jab more than a Hooker was. He's more technical. He's able to.
A Hooker?
Yeah.
You like a prostitute?
You're not even drinking.
It's a rated R.
It's not a rated R show.
You can't hook with a hooker.
This guy
Listen, he's a much more technical fighter than Maurice Hooker.
You can't hook with a hooker, bro.
You can't. He's going to use that jab more, so I think he's going to have more control of the ring and have more of the ring generalship over him than. So even though it'll be a better fight than we probably saw with this fight, and Hooker was a good fight, but I think Crawford, one, I think he's a little bit too big, and two, he's a little bit too more technical where he can hold him off.
Well, that's fine. Moving along. Another fight this weekend. Gervonta Davis fought somebody. I don't even know.
Somebody saw it?
534,000 views on Showtime.
Tank!
Tank is a great talent. clearly a home draw. I think he drew 14,000 people, which is great. I still don't know who he fought.
No.
I have the replay. I'm probably not gonna watch it.
Nope. Nope.
If you're Floyd Mayweather, Dave, do you rush Tank to fight a Lomachenko or make a Lomachenko fight, or what do you do with Tank Davis at 130? Do you fight the Mexican cat that Cancio? Again, he's on the other side of the street.
Yeah.
Do you fight or you try to make a deal with Cancio? I mean, Cancio only made 125,000, I believe, for the rematch with Albert Machado. I'm sure Floyd Mayweather could throw more than 125,000 to fight Cancio, who actually has the real belt, the real WBA belt. What do you do if you're Tank Davis?
I think it's
and
time.
Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, I think it's time to
who clearly is friends with Floyd with Donald Trump, because when they asked Floyd Mayweather, or when they asked Gervonta Davis about Donald Trump and what he said about Baltimore, Floyd was like, Gervonta's a great hometown guy. he clearly
totally,
avoid the question.
Yeah, he totally danced around the question. Listen, I think it's time, man. Give Gervonta Davis a big fight with a big formidable name. Listen, just like we were talking about Ramirez, sometimes you need that, and I hate to say stepping stone, because it all depends on if you win, right, or if you lose. Yeah. But you need that big fight, right, to propel your career to that next level. And I think it's time. Listen, I like what I see with Gervonta Davis. I mean, he looks good too, physically. So you see the videos out there. The guy's fucking running and training at 4 a.m. with the police following him and stuff like that. Kind of reminds me of Mayweather a little bit.
I'm just worried about his defense. You say Mayweather, but that's the thing I worry about him, his defense. He's a great offensive fighter. He can attack anybody.
He hasn't had to use it yet, though.
I mean,
he hasn't had to use it yet, though.
He's still growing, though. He's still growing. But I think it's time to give him a decent name, something bigger, something to put him on a little bit, on the map, so to speak.
So if you were Davis and the options were Burchout, Cancio, move up to fight Lomachenko.
Burchout would be nice.
Burchout would be nice.
That would be nice.
Jamal Harry's 130, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's
130,
but there's no PBC guys there, so it's gonna be tough.
That's the problem. So
I mean, and here's the
and again, boxing politics. That's right.
If there wasn't any, I'd love it to be Burchard.
Yeah.
Or Cancio, because Cancio has proven that he's a world class fighter, and he has the real WBA belt at 130. Yeah. If we're calling belts real anymore, because there's so many of them, there's so much bullshit. Franchises, super, interim.
What's the one that
we need to have Mauricio on it.
We need to have the Huchoi belt.
Oh my God.
Hibachi. The Hibachi belt.
I mean, I don't think he's ready for Lomachenko yet. A big name like that.
I think he is.
Nah, I think give him a little more seasoning. Because obviously you want to be careful.
I mean, that's a big jump.
I mean, he's undefeated too, so you don't want him to lose.
And then fight the top of the division rather than just jumping up there.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't you put Lomachenko on a different level though? I mean, I think he is.
I mean, he's fighting Luke Campbell's. I don't want to see that shit.
Correct, but
Yeah, according to your boy Eddie's, Luke's gonna win that.
We're gonna jump right into Eddie and what happened last week with Dillian White. We took a poll last week. We went from 30 to 40 to 66 votes. We're getting there. Yeah. We're getting there. Yeah. Poll of the day for the next show. How long should Dillian White's ban be from boxing? Someone said 55% said life.
Wow.
24% said 2 years. 12% said 1 year. A lot of people said 6 months. Other 9%. So let me just go before we get into Memo. Let me just read what was on Boxing Scene from Tom Hauser. One of a lot of people respect Tom Hauser. A lot of people do not like Tom Hauser. But either way, he's the one that broke the story on July 24th. From Boxing Scene, a sample was taken from Dillian White by the United Kingdom Anti-Doping Agency, tested positive for one more banned substance prior to his fight with Oscar Rivas. Boxing Scene has not confirmed that substances were, oh my God, epimethadione and hydromethadone. I have no idea.
Yeah, you're gonna have to say that to him.
I'm like, hey, Angel, what the hell does this even mean? 2 metabolites of the banned drug Dianoble. Metabolite is a byproduct of the body breaking down or metabolizing a drug into different substance. When a drug is leaving the user system, it leaves these intermediate end products. Dianabol is an anabolic steroid that is taken orally. It was developed in 1955 to treat hypogonadism, but is no longer used medically and is no longer available in many countries, including the United States. It can be purchased in the UK and is often used as a performance-enhancing drug, particularly by bodybuilders. Among its many side effects, it can cause serious liver damage. So I guess Dillian White isn't going to be drinking a lot anytime soon because of this. Your thoughts on one, Oscar Rivas' camp not being informed, 2, the fight going on, and 3, people want to see him banned for life.
Well, I was one of the people that actually was kind of built that question up when I said that, listen, for the first time you get caught, you should be suspended for 2 years, and the second time you should be banned for life. So
this is the second time.
And this is the second time. So I would be very harsh on him. Even if you got rid of the previous thing, he should be suspended for 2 years. So to have that, the fight is actually looking like it's going to go on, it just boggles my mind.
Well, why not?
Well, yeah, that it went on just boggles my mind. Like, it's just, how could you let a guy that failed a drug test actually in a ring that's as violent as this fight is, especially at the same time where we see all this violence and 2 boxers have died in the ring from that stuff? Like, how could you let somebody in a violent sport use a performance-enhancing drug and then get in the ring and punch somebody else in the head? I just don't get that. And not telling the other person about it, like informing ahead of time that he had failed a drug test, that's just completely irresponsible by all parts. By the UK anti-doping for not letting it know. Eddie Hearn had to know. He should have let somebody know. Like, people should have known about this. The other team's camp should have known about something like that. It's completely irresponsible.
Your thoughts on, should the fight have gone on? How long he should be suspended for? And, I mean, just, yeah, those 2 things. I know I had another question, but I don't remember. Whatever.
I mean, listen, money talks, guys.
Of course,
I hate to say that. So, I'm definitely with Pete in terms of, I mean, notification should have been, made.
That's so dangerous.
To everybody. It's ridiculous.
Especially after 2 guys died the same week.
In the ring.
So, this being his second time, I mean, I mean, it should be either life or something close to life.
I would say 2 years.
I mean,
if you're gonna make a sentence.
Cheating is cheating.
If
you should not be cheating in a sport where others are busting their ass, doing it right, killing themselves day in and day out. I mean, if you follow a boxer throughout the camp, throughout the entire camp, in terms of the work they put in, what they sacrifice.
Just to make
the weight training and all that stuff, forget it. It's ridiculous. So, to cheat and to have another fighter on the other side of the coin who does it right and doesn't cheat and bust their ass, it's not right.
We're still waiting on the B sample. We're still waiting on whatever the testimony that occurred between Dillian White, his representatives, and the British Boxing Board of Control and UKADA, or however you call it. Eddie Hearn said he's guilty until proven innocent. Eddie Hearn says he can't say much. Neither can Dillian White. I didn't say that. He did. Eddie, I still love you, man.
Eddie, you're full of shit.
That's fucked up, man. Come on, bro.
It's called spade to spade.
Well,
the bullshitter.
What
else do you want to say?
I mean,
I agree with Dave.
Thank you.
Well, maybe. I mean, I don't know.
This guy, maybe. I don't know.
Of course it is. Of course. I'm just fucking around. People know I love Eddie Hearn. So, hello, Angel?
Hello, how are you?
How you doing, Angel? You're live with 2 dudes and a Mexican. Thanks for coming on. Guys, this is Angel Memo Heredia. If you're in the boxing world, you know him as particularly one of the best strength and conditioning coaches. Was Juan Manuel Marquez's strength and conditioning coach when he sent Pacquiao to hell. I know you guys remember that. Thanks for joining us today. Memo, I just want to jump right into it. A lot of opinions have been said about what happened with Dillian White last week, or 2 weekends ago with Oscar Rivas. You being in, all these high-profile fights, how would you have taken the decision that was made by the commission and allowing the fight to go on? Like, how would you have taken that knowingly after the fight occurred?
How you doing, man? Thanks for having me in your show once again, and I'm honored to be able to provide some of my personal opinion, a very humble opinion. And, this is a complicated case because, in this case, particularly boxer tested positive, according to the media. His A sample gave him a positive test. Now, legally, no athlete in the world or boxer in the world is guilty until the B samples are open and definitely examined, tested, and if they yield the same results, then you can suspend or you can prevent a boxer or an athlete to participate in an event. In this situation, my understanding, he tested positive before the fight, but his B sample, I have different sources that, that is soon to be revealed, but we don't have the results yet. For that matter, if we don't have those results yet, logically, UKAD still waiting on them. Remember, you have to understand they go by the rules of WADA. Okay, so normally an athlete who tests positive when A sample, you got 10 days to open the B sample. So, see, logically, the situation here is mostly in a legality system. I mean, for some, he should be prevented from fighting, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
for sure.
Yep.
Then, for example, if that would have been the case, and then he would stop from fighting, he would lose millions of dollars. Everybody would lose a lot of money. But imagine, after doing that, if the B sample came back negative, then it would be even a worse disaster. You understand? So at this point, in my opinion, the situation doesn't come from the testing part. It comes from a legality part. You cannot suspect anybody guilty from A sample until the B sample is analyzed. And, I've seen it all through my experience through too many years of this. I've seen samples where they come back positive on A, and then the B sample comes up negative. Sometimes things happen in the laboratory. Sometimes accidents happen in the laboratory. Sometimes there's mistakes, believe it or not. Laboratory makes mistakes. Obviously, you don't see those published a lot on the media because a lot of those cases are pretty much handled under the reps. You understand? You remember the case of Mary Jones testing positive on the A sample for EPO, then came back and tested negative on the B. Obviously, she was allowed to run until the B sample was confirmed, was tested and confirmed. So you understand my point?
So
it depends how you see things, and at this point, my understanding that VADA was also involved in the testing. If that was the case, it'll be interesting to see, to hear the results of their testing participation. In other words, if this particular boxer was tested by the UK and through a positive test, I would like to see the test previously done by VADA, or maybe after that particular test done by VADA. That will help a lot in this case. But at this point, VADA, as usual, they want to keep everything on the wraps very quietly. They don't answer back to any media asking for the results, either because maybe they're still waiting for the laboratory to come back with the results, or they're still trying to figure out how to handle the situation.
In your experience,
you understand,
yeah, in your experience, how long does it take for the B sample to come back? Because it's been kind of 2 weeks now.
UKAV, they go by the hands of water. So normally, once you test positive, you have 7 days. You get notified. So it should not take more than 10 days.
Okay, because I believe he tested positive. I believe it was like what, July 16th, I want to say, and we're
because listen, nobody's 10 days according to WADA, but you can also request a express testing, and like the way they do it in the Olympics, where for example the sprinter comes up positive, they can request his test right away done within 72 hours, and then we get the result right away. So in this case, it's a little bit crazy. Once again, there's a lot of organizations combined doing the testing. For example, in my experience, when I wanted to have USADA involved in a particular testing with one of my bosses, they were pretty much happy to do it, but then once they found out VADA was also involved in the situation, they didn't want to get involved because that creates a conflict, not only could create a conflict of interest, but it could be situations like this. I'm not saying VADA is doing it wrong, he's doing it a bad job, no, I'm not saying that, but what really intriguing is the silence. No, they have not said anything, and also, it should have been, Rivas should have been notified, at least the commission, maybe the promoter, Rivas promoter, but they kept it on the wraps. Perhaps they did to avoid the whole situation to collapse. For example, in the Canelo situation, he tested positive, and they pretty much suspend the whole event. They cancel everything while at the time they were still waiting for the big sample to be open. That was a wrong mistake by the commission. I guess they learned or whatever, but this is a different situation. So once again, the athlete is not to be blamed. The testing system itself is doing its job. The problem here is the legality in between. You understand what I mean?
Yeah. So he tested positive for I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. Dynaball? Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, it's a monstrous steroid. it's one of the, I think, chemistry speaking, it's one of the most and strongest anabolics that there is. You know, actually, it was designed by an American chemist a long time ago in order to keep up with the Russians. This is a long time ago. So it's still on the market, very acceptable. Now we also need to understand that if this particular box was tested previously by BADA and those samples are negative within a very close range between one another within each test, then there could be a possibility, I'm not saying there could be a possibility of supplement contamination. UK and United States, unfortunately, there's a disaster when it comes to the supplement industry. There's plenty of supplements. Not necessarily this is not just my opinion. There's a lot of studies, even WADA knows about it, even USADA knows about it, even BADA knows about it. But, at this point, I cannot say with the supplement because we still bury all these mysteriously. Everything is quiet, nobody's saying anything. I mean, Eddie came out and did his speech. And, I guess we just have to wait for the big sample becomes positive. Then that's something that the promotions or the event coordinators or whatever, they have to sit down and figure out the legality of it. Because, like I said, you cannot prevent an athlete or boxer from fighting based on A sample. You have to understand that B sample is used as a discriminatory method. Okay? Those who doesn't know the difference between A and B sample is very simple. It's the same urine sample divided in two. Okay? And the reason they do that is to, like situations like this, if the A sample comes up positive, then you gotta retest the B sample, which is the same urine, as a confirmative method. If that yields positive, then obviously he should be suspended by the UK rules or BADA rules or whatever organization is on this situation. So, like I said, it's mostly a legality situation. There's something lawyers need to work it out, need to figure it out. If for example, in my opinion, it would be best if you test a boxer, and if automatically comes out positive, you gotta retest the B sample right away. But then you have to understand they have to follow protocols. Those protocols are already established by WADA and not go around it. The athletes have rights too, and you got to respect that. Unfortunately, we know the fact that there's a lot of dirty boxers up there. There's a lot of clean boxers up there. But we have to trust what we have. We cannot just come in and destroy the whole testing system. We just have to make arrangements, changes, little changes, legality changes, more aggressive testing when it comes to random 365, 24/7 testing program, which in my opinion is terrible. A lot of people today, a lot of boxers worldwide, they probably raise their hand and say, I'm involved, I'm enrolled by that testing, randomly, WBC, whatever. But that doesn't mean anything, frankly, because you barely get tested.
What does that mean, though? What does that mean when the WBC?
You can be months without getting tested once.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So Memo, what does that mean when you enroll in WBC clean boxing program enrolled by VADA? What exactly does that mean?
Yes, my understanding is you get involved to protect your ranking status, right? Which is a good thing. Mauricio is doing good things for the sport. He's trying to do the best he can. In my opinion, he's not listening to the right people. But aside of that, is to maintain your rank. And you are, by signing that agreement, you're supposed to let them know where you are, your locations, and they can test you anytime they want. So, me personally, I work with so many athletes, so many boxers that have been ranked, and through the periods of time I was with them, there was never one time they were tested randomly. and if they came once,
That's pretty.
they only did zero.
That's pretty big, huh? That's
So frankly, it's not a bad thing. I mean, it's not a bad thing by that what they're trying to do. The thing is, they're not doing correctly. They're very primitive to money, and I don't blame them because the test in itself is expensive. You gotta just put everything on WBC to pay for it. I always said it before in the past that if the television networks are the promoters officially in today's business. They should not only pay part of the testing, but also obligate those who are fighting in their shows.
And
whatever portion left to pay, it could be split between the promoters, between the organizations, and I think that will work. The problem is nowadays you got commission tests, which they want to do whatever they want to do. In other words, I had my boxer who got tested. For example, last time we got tested, it was in this camp before we fought this 10 days ago. He only got tested once. Previously on that.
Was that a WBC fight? Was that?
Yeah, he got tested only one time.
Wow.
Right? But we requested information if Porter was also tested because they were supposed to fight for the World Championship, both train in Vegas, both live in Vegas.
That was WBC with Porter, okay.
But they could never confirm that. So, it doesn't make sense to do random tests if you're not doing it correctly. Why are you going to have a guy tested what you're not tested the other guy, and those guys fighting each other in the same event? And both are WBC ranked. I mean, there's a lot of situations where they need to re-establish, go back to the books and try to figure out what's the best. I mean, like I said, Mauricio Soletran is a great president, but he's not a chemist, he's not a pharmacist, and obviously he's listening to the wrong people. So by that reason, Ivan's losing so much credibility. I mean, tell me, what's the point of you being, enrolled and bragging about it all the time and pointing out fingers? A lot of people are not enrolled just because you're not enrolled. Like a lot of WBO fighters, they don't get enrolled because they fight by WBO. And they get pointed out all the time. Oh, they're dirty because they're not enrolled, blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, what's the point? Those enrolled, those that get tested at all. And if they do, they get every 2-3 months. I mean, come on.
Yep. So, Memo, we got like 5 more minutes. We're live with Angel, Memo Heredia, 2 dudes and a Mexican.
Memo, I just want to ask a question. You said everybody is raising their hands saying they're in all these, they're enrolled and everything. What percentage of boxers do you think, and we hear the same thing in baseball with like 50, we hear about 50% of people are doing something, whether it's a masking agent, holding it back, or amphetamines, anything. What do you think is the percentage of boxers right now doing something?
Well, it's the same thing. Look, and I did a report last year over the World Soccer Championships, and I did that interview in Germany, and it was pretty much about that. There are a lot of people, a lot of those pro soccer players, they're supposed to be enrolled, they're supposed to be tested consistently by WADA, but frankly, the percentage of those soccer players being tested by, for example, from growth hormone testing or more specific drugs, was very small percentage, while other people were not even tested at all. Same thing is happening in different sports. Consistency of the testing is not appropriate. Obviously, you cannot compare boxing because the problem with boxing is structured with so many organizations, commissions, and it's kind of hard to put that together. But NFL, they also slacking up a lot on testing. They say they test what we know a lot of people don't get tested in the NFL. They get away with a lot of things. So, like I said, it's an endless game. What I'm saying is clean sport is a good thing and definitely something that has to be done. The problem is, like I said, it costs a lot of money. It has to be well organized, and boxing is very important. Especially when you go hand to hand and you're putting a life in danger in the ring, it's something that has to be considered. It's not the same running 100 meters or going on a bike and going on a mountain that going against each other. You can kill somebody in the ring. I mean, it's so many things that can go on and on and on. And like I said, it's up to the people to understand. A lot of people don't understand how testing is done in boxing. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there in the internet, in Twitter, they don't know that. They have no idea what it's all about. But they can so just pay attention to the testing. It's not a bad thing to regroup and it's to do stronger, more aggressive testing. So as far as UKAD, what they have a marriage with England and WADA, and they do their own thing, and decided no longer doing boxing in UFC. So at this point, we got only two choices: Nation, which we know the terrible, and we have WADA. They do a good testing only, with both boxers pay for it, and they do an aggressive testing for for camp to camp. In other words, come fighting somebody else, I want to pay $35,000 or $40,000. So we both that we fight for a world title get tested continuously 3 or 4 times a week. That's the only time they do a little okay job. It still got a lot of flaws in their testing, but it is what we got, and let's hopefully get better. Yeah.
Orale Paisano, you're here with two dudes in a Mexican, Memo Heredia. You're talking to the Mexicano of the show, right? So it's really nice to have you on the show. I actually wanted to get your opinion on the big controversy last year. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the canceled fight between Canelo and Triple G, right? There was a big controversy. Obviously, Canelo got, he tested positive for a PED. Obviously the excuse was the tainted meat from Mexico. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts, and your opinion on that?
Well, personally, I was very close into the whole investigation. I gave opinions to several media outlets, ESPN, all over the place, and everything I said came back true. In other words, it was proven, that Canelo, based on these contamination, based on these nanogram concentrations, urinary concentrations, that in the timing of the testing, that it came from a meat source. But then, at that time, there was a little doubt for many people because, when he tested positive, we didn't have any pre-testing before. So there was people who were saying that he probably was cycling off, whatever. But what people don't know,
yeah, that was one of the opinions.
Sample analysis is the most reliable, the most accurate when it comes to testing clenbuterol. I'm not saying that it's extremely reliable of testing other things, no. But when it comes to clenbuterol, it's 100% reliable. He didn't say that to the media. A lot of his defense didn't talk to the media about it, and the commission did a hair sampling. And through that particular testing, you can be able to track the timeline of those concentrations, and it showed that and the samples show that he had no concentration whatsoever previously 6 months back. So, like I said, with that concur, like I said all the time, he wasn't guilty by doping. He was guilty by accidental doping. And that the particular thing with Androlum and clenbuterol in Mexico is really highly. There's no, you could be lucky it needs not get away with it, but there's places where they got no control over that. Even in the United States, if you go into the FDA statistics, you'll be able to tell that there's a small percentage, and a lot of people being fined, even put in jail for using these substances to beef up the stock. So like I said, Canelo was innocent. He was just irresponsible for eating meat because, when I worked with Juan Manuel Marquez, through all these fight camps that we have together, I always prohibited for him to eat red meat. He always listened, he never ate red meat. Because like I said, we know about this. This is way before boxing. This is talking about track and field and soccer. A lot of athletes have come up positive for this is small amounts. But also, I want to make sure, and I want to clear this up. Today, a lot of athletes, they also throw in their card game saying, it was the meat. But there's ways to prove it. There's ways to prove if it was from meat contamination or it was actually doping, actual doping from the person. You can tell by the concentrations, by the timeline, by the time you ingested the pill, ingested the meat supposedly, and then you can compare the concentrations based on half-life. I can go on, and I might confuse you, but like I said, that's my opinion on that.
And Memo, we can talk to you forever, man. Like, wealth of knowledge. We'll definitely get you back on before a big fight. Last two questions for me. Did you prohibit Juan Manuel Marquez from drinking his own pee in camp?
Nice.
And when is Felix Verdejo coming back?
Okay, yeah.
You gotta laugh at
it. He needed to stop drinking his pee.
Was that true, or was that just for the cameras?
Who told you or who recommended you to take a urine? So explain to me He never told me. At the end, after a couple of years, he told me who he was. He was a guy, one of those groupies that, they want to help the boxer, but, they're not hurting the boxer. They're not helping the boxer. They're hurting him. Told him that, by drinking his own urine, he will
Makes
bring
no
in
sense.
those nutrients that wasn't absorbed
It's a waste.
through the meal. That he will reabsorb them back. But I told him, Marcus, at this time of era, we have supplements. We don't need to do that. so he stopped it. I mean, Marcus is one of the most easiest guys that you can talk to. He's obviously when you see him, he looks tough and he barely smiles, but he's a kid. He's like a kid. He listens and plays around, and we always have a good relationship. As far as Felix, I've been in touch with him. Right now, I'm in your home in Florida. I live here in Orlando, waiting for him just to get a date. I know that his trainer, manager, Ricky, is working on it. I know they mentioned something possibly in September or October.
Okay.
So Felix will let me know, and Ricky, so I can just head out to Puerto Rico to start camp. So like I said, he's going to fight this year. I just don't know exactly what particular month. My understanding, he's going to fight the same card with Pedraza. Both guys are.
Okay.
Puerto Rico's bring a lot of crowds in Puerto Rico in New York, so likely it's going to be in New York.
Okay. So when that happens, we'll come check you out, man. Memo, appreciate your time today. Thanks for coming on.
Anytime, man.
We'll definitely talk to you soon, man. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show, man.
Gracias,
Thanks,
paisano.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Awesome. I still don't know a lot about drugs, but he's
got a wealth of knowledge.
He's got a wealth of knowledge. And obviously, a lot of people think they have two different opinions of him. A lot of people like him, some people don't. But that goes, I think, with all strength and conditioning coaches. Some people think they're suspects. Some people think they're real. I've had conversations with Memo Heredia before. I'm glad he came on the show.
It's a different feel when you get that intellectual side, though.
Yeah.
Obviously, he knows what he's talking about. He's got a wealth of knowledge when it comes to supplements and PEDs, and he was even talking about the legality.
I'm gonna call him the Bernard Hopkins of strength and conditioning coach because he does.
He likes to talk.
He talk. I don't know about Alex the Reason. He's Bernard Hopkins because Bernard Hopkins. You ask Bernard Hopkins one question, and he'll tell you about where he went to grammar school, high school, what he learned in jail, and then he'll make fun of you because he's like, "Yo, I went to jail." And I'm making more money than you. Where you get a degree from don't matter. Anyways, moving along. Great interview, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. For my guy Tease, who asked for Dejo, I hope you got information from that September, October. But today was July 31st, 4 o'clock. Trade deadline came and went, and the Yankees don't have nobody.
Do you really have to do that?
Yeah, he
Yes.
kind of did.
You calm down, Captain
He
America.
kind of did.
Jesus, you guys.
That was horrible.
I hope that
That was really. How did the Yankees let that happen? Seriously, that's the biggest question I want to know. Like, you're
Cashman.
Pride of the Yankees.
Cashman.
The storied franchise. And you are right there with the Houston Astros, and you need a starting pitcher, and then you let him go to the opposite team. Now they have 3 aces, and they didn't even give up anybody in the top 99 prospects in the sport. They gave up all guys that were middle tier guys, and they got Zach Greinke with a under 3 ERA, who pitched against the Yankees today and pitched well in the rain.
Even the Mets.
I don't understand.
Even the Mets.
I don't understand how you can let that happen. Like, the Mets messed up the trade deadline.
Yeah, good job, asshole. Good job, asshole.
Mets and the Cincinnati Reds messed up the trade
You guys
deadline.
aren't going to make the playoffs.
Neither one of you.
You're not going to make the playoffs.
Giants, and the Giants too.
Who
Yeah,
cares?
you got Marcus Stroman.
Who cares? Make the move,
reason.
baby. Make the
Make
move.
the
What was the
Make
reason?
move,
What was the
baby.
reason? What was the reason?
Over Torres, baby.
You
Come on.
didn't.
Fucking pay.
Hold
Let
on.
pay.
But you kept Zach
Come on.
Wheeler. He's not even going to be on your team next year.
You don't know that. You don't know
No,
that.
he's not.
You don't
You know
know
they're not going to
that.
pay him.
You don't know that.
They already paid DeGrom. They just traded for Stroman, so they're eventually gonna have to pay him or let him go.
And you don't have money.
They got Syndergaard, who they kept for who they're gonna have for the next couple of years. They're gonna have to pay him. Or let him
They
go.
have money.
Zach
They just
Wheeler-
don't know how to spend it sometimes.
That's why
spending
he's
the
not
money
gonna be
with
there.
like Keon Bronxton and people
Who?
like that. So I mean, listen.
That's why he's not gonna be there because they don't want to spend the money. They got 4 pitchers, 5 if you count Max, that are above a number 3 starter or better. They're not gonna pay all those guys. So as somebody as Wheeler that's a free agent at the end of the year, you got to get what you can for him.
So here's the rundown. Yankees did shit. Mets fucked up the trade deadline.
Yeah, so the Giants.
Giants fucked up the trade deadline.
Braves tried to get
Astros won the trade deadline.
Yeah.
Braves got their closer.
Yeah.
What do you think of your closer?
I like it because there was only a couple closers out there that I really wanted. It was either Smith from San Francisco, and they didn't know what the hell they were doing because they kept guys that are not going to make the playoffs probably. And it was Shane Green, who's having an unbelievable year. ERA is like 1.3 for the season so far.
You just shitting on him 2 days ago.
And he's somebody.
You were shitting on him.
No, I was shitting on him.
He's a hypocrite, though, right? He's a hypocrite.
Shane Green.
You're a hypocrite.
I have no idea. It just sounded good. It just sounded good at the time.
From the start, I was saying that I wanted Shane Green if I could have get Smith, and we got him, and we almost blew it. We actually blew it a game in the 9th inning today, and we came back and won an extra inning. So it more proved the reason why we need a closer for the 9th inning. So I thought that was the best thing they could do, and he's under contract for another year, so it's not a rental.
Well, excuse me.
Cubs acquired Castellanos.
How many times
Yeah,
you hit?
Who?
Cubs.
Listen, I'll give you Hicks for.
Even the Cubs made a move.
I'll give you Hicks for Acuna,
We
bro.
want pitching.
No, what do you need
We
pitching
want pitching.
for?
We still need a starter.
What do you
Well,
need
he's
pitching
just studying
for?
the outfield.
We still
he's
need a
still in the
starter.
outfield. Come on, man. Come on.
We got 8 outfielders. We need a starting pitcher.
What do you mean? He made the greatest catch of the year. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that could be good on SportsCenter.
You could have done it in a Braves uniform.
You could have done a Braves uniform.
Yeah, we gotta
Could
go
have
to
done
a
a
center
Braves
field
uniform.
already.
Could have done a Braves uniform. I mean,
We gotta go to a center field already. I'm not alright with that.
well, you'll be fine, bro. Well, anyways, we're gonna get on the Yankee Blogger. Hopefully, he picks up.
Man,
Hey, Nick, how you doing? 2 dudes and a Mexican. Welcome aboard.
what's up? What's going on, guys?
You tell me. I'm a frustrated New York Yankee fan.
Pride of the Yankees.
4 o'clock came, 4 o'clock went, and we got nothing. What happened?
Yeah, you know, it seems like cash was engaged on everybody in the market, and the frustration, I think, for Yankee fans, you know, it goes back to the winter. You know, it goes back to passing on Patrick Corbin, passing on Charlie Morton. You know, they lost out on Dallas Keuchel over $1 million. And then it comes to today, and you just look at all the candidates, and something kind of went wrong with everybody. You know, Matthew Boyd, the Tigers wanted Gleyber Torres. That wasn't going to happen. You knew a trade with the Mets, whether it be Wheeler, whether it be Syndergaard, you know, that was a long shot. Neither of them ended up moving. You know, Greinke, obviously, you know, he had the Yankees on his no-trade list. He wasn't going to come here. And I don't think Matt Bum was available. So you kind of look around the market. I mean, Robbie Ray didn't get moved. They were asking for Clint Frazier plus. So they just didn't really match up with anybody on a deal, you know, that Cash felt comfortable with.
Now, as a Yankee fan, you see what the Astros have lined up now. I mean, do you feel confident going into this postseason now? I mean, we're right there record-wise, but when you break it down, you're gonna go to Tanaka 1, maybe Paxton 2, and Herman is your 3 against those 3 guys. I mean, give us the Yankee fans some hope as to why we should be confident in beating the Astros or even being competitive with them should we play them in the playoffs.
So yeah, I'll give you a little vote of confidence. So the Astros are clearly better on paper, you know, in the starting rotation. But you know, you go back to 2011, you know, the Philadelphia Phillies, they had what I think is maybe the greatest rotation of all time. I mean, they had Roy Halladay, they had Cliff Lee, they had Roy Oswalt, they had Cole Hamels. You know, they won 103 games, I think it was, and then they lost in the first round to the Cardinals. You look at 2014, you know, the Tigers, they acquired David Price at the deadline. They paired him with Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander, and they were the odds-on favorites. You know, and then they got swept by the Orioles in the first round. So, yeah, it stings. It sucks if you're a Yankee fan, but we've seen in our lifetime and recently, you know, teams with loaded rotations, teams that won the trade deadline and, you know, fell a little bit short in the postseason. Baseball's a funny game, and, you know, the Yankees have a ton of power in their lineup. They have a ton of power bullpen arms. And, you know, if they get a couple of bounces, you know, they could beat the Astros in a series. But, you know, everybody knows it's going to be a lot tougher now.
We're here with Kirby from Yankees Insider.
Bronx Pinstripes.
Bronx
Come on,
Pinstripes.
smack.
Sorry about
He's an
that.
Atlanta Braves fan.
All good.
He's
talking to Atlanta Braves fan.
I'm the only Atlanta. I'm the
I
only
think he's doing
Atlanta
this
Braves
purposely.
He's an Atlanta Braves fan.
He's doing this purposely.
Yeah, I think he's trying to spite me right now. But it's
I
all right.
like, listen, I like pissing off the Yankees a little bit. Sorry, I'm in New York, so I got to do that. But listen, the biggest question I have to ask is how did the Yankees let this happen? Now, you named a couple people that, all right, they may not have been available to the Yankees. Mets don't want to trade with the Yankees, so I understand that. And this pairs maybe Mad Bum may not be available. But you still had Trevor Bauer go during here. You had Marcus Stroman go. Stroman didn't go for that much. We heard they wanted Delvey Garcia. Delvey Garcia is a good young pitcher, but how do you not give him up to get another big pitcher when you need starting pitching so much? How do you not give up maybe another guy to get somebody like a Trevor Bauer?
Yeah, those guys, those are tough. I will say for Bauer, they got Scramble, they got the number 14th ranked prospect in all of baseball. Bauer took a pretty good package. The Stroman thing I think is tougher, especially with, maybe you don't want to give up Garcia. I mean, but they got Clint Frazier in the minors. They got Miguel Andujar, who's, pretty valuable and doesn't really have a future with the team. So, I mean, you have Andujar and Clint, who probably aren't going to be doing, well, Andujar definitely, and probably Clint aren't going to have any impact in October, right? You just have them kind of sitting in the weeds when you could have cashed them in. I mean, I would have done either of them, or maybe even both for Stroman in a heartbeat. And they also have Estevan Florial, who, the Yankees prospect, he's their third-ranked prospect right now. I think they could have given him up for somebody. I mean, and I agree with you. There were moves to be made. And they have individual excuses for all of them, but at the end of the day, they got nothing, and it definitely stings.
And it's just frustrating. I understand that for Yankee fans, and as a Braves fan, I know because I've been disappointed a lot at the deadline. So you have all these pitchers out there. That's your number one priority. And you mentioned Zach Greinke had the Yankees on his no-trade list, but we've seen people waive their no-trade clauses before. Do you know if the Yankees even made an attempt to get him?
From what I understand, there was no dialogue on Zach Greinke, and I know that you're right. Guys have waived their no trade clause in the past, but Greinke is kind of a special case. He's had some. I don't want to label the guy, but I know he's had some anxiety type things, some mental type things, and Brian Cashman kind of alluded to this, that the Yankees and Greinke both determined long ago, and I mean years ago, that he was never going to be a fit here, kind of with that social anxiety. Mike Minor is another guy that had the Yankees on his no trade. And I think the Yankees maybe could have parlayed something there with Texas, but it seems like Texas never made him available. And part of that is I think a lot of the names, you're hearing Boyd, you're hearing Bumgarner, and, you're hearing Mike Minor. I don't think they were as available as the media kind of made it seem, and Cash kind of alluded to it. And, they weren't moved, so there could be some truth there.
What's the one move that you would have made if you were the GM? What's the one pitcher that you would have targeted to try to get that you didn't get that you thought was available?
Yeah, you know what? I wanted Marcus Stroman. A lot of people were, skeptical of trading within the division. I heard a lot of Bronx Pinstripes guys were worried about, sending Clint up to Toronto, and having him, kick our butt for the next 10 years. But Marcus Stroman, he's from Long Island. He's a gamer. Ground ball pitcher in Yankee Stadium, having his best year, 28 years old. I thought he'd bring that fire that they kind of needed to the rotation. Now, here's the interesting thing. Bob Kapklish, who's a writer for the Yankees, kind of confirmed that the Mets would have been willing to, flip Stroman to the Yankees for Florial and Garcia. So that's kind of another dead end that they hit. But there were a lot of opportunities to get these guys, and they struck out. There's really no other way to put it.
You're here with two dudes and a Mexican. Here talking with Nick Kirby from Bronx Pinstripes. Nick, it's nice to talk to you. I'm the Mexican on the show here, so I'm a big Mets fan, diehard Mets fan actually. I bleed blue and orange in my household, so that's why I don't get along with these two here. So Yankees and Braves, but you talk about opportunities. I've heard you say that a lot in this conversation. What do you think it would have taken for the Yankees to either get Stroman from the Mets, or even a Noah Syndergaard or Wheeler? Which obviously there was a lot of talk in the media about Syndergaard's relationship with the Mets, that he was on the block, and there was a lot of talk obviously about Wheeler because he's not under control after this year. He's due to be a free agent at the end of this year, so the Mets are supposedly not going to pay him. What do you think it would have taken, and do you think if it was even possible?
Well, yeah, it's interesting. You're kind of almost talking about uncharted territory. I mean, the Yankees and the Mets rarely trade. They had a minor trade 2 years ago with Lee Mazzilli's son in the minor leagues, and then their last trade before that was in 2004. But from what I understand, Deivi Garcia, Clint Frazier and Estevan Florial wouldn't have been enough, for Syndergaard. So then, you start talking about guys. I know they were interested in Glaber. You start talking about Glaber Torres, and you start talking about kind of lower levels of the system. I think it would have taken, five or six elite prospects / players. Somebody brought up a good point and said, the Mets kind of have a hole in center field. What about maybe a package centered around Aaron Hicks, for Syndergaard, which I thought was interesting. But, between Syndergaard having the 2 years of control after this year and kind of the trade embargo that the Yankees and Mets have, I just never thought it was realistic. Wheeler being a rental, I think they could have gotten for, maybe Florial and Clint, maybe even Clint by himself. But honestly, part of it seems like nobody really wanted Clint Frazier. Is kind of the the conclusion I'm coming to.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, I thought Wheeler was going to be probably the pitcher to go from the Mets. Syndergaard, I kind of thought, obviously the rumors and all that stuff, and obviously he had fun with it on Twitter. So, but listen, I think there were opportunities there for the Yankees. They have a plethora of offensive players, obviously. You saw how many injuries they had, and look at their record. One of the best records in baseball. Even with all the injuries to the big offensive players they had a plethora of players. They didn't pull the trigger. They could have, but they didn't. So, and I think, who knows? It might come back to bite them in the playoffs. It might not. Who knows? We'll see.
Nick, they could have been, and real quick, just going back to it, the real mistake they made, and I'm telling you, and most Yankee fans know this, is you go back to Patrick Corbin, they could have had him for just cash, no prospect. You look at Dallas Keuchel, they could have gotten him essentially for free. Yep. Whatever it was, 12, 13 million for the rest of the year. So if you're a frustrated Yankee fan, be frustrated about them not willing to put up the cash for those guys, more so than the prospects, I would say.
Nick, you had mentioned Clint Frazier's trade value just not being there anymore. What would it take for the Yankees and Clint Frazier to make him that chip that was so coveted, I guess, last year or earlier this year? Everybody wanted Clint Frazier in any package. Quick hands, good-looking kid, red hair, could be a face of maybe not a face of a franchise, but could definitely be a 2 or a 3, all-star. What happened with Clint Frazier?
So yeah, it's funny. He came up and they had the injuries, and he was raking. He was hitting about 285. He had 11 homers. Mid-May. I mean, he was doing pretty solid. The Yankees kind of killed his trade value by banishing him into the minors. And you think about all the guys that they called up before him. Tauchman, Maven. They brought Tyro Estrada to London. The Yankees were flying around in a private jet in London like rock stars, and Clint Frazier was in a motel in Scranton in AAA. I mean, they kept him down, and they called up pretty much everybody they could instead of him. And I think keeping him in the minors definitely depressed his value a little bit. If they would have had him up for the past month or so in the Bronx and he was hitting the ball out of the ballpark, you got to think his value would have been a little bit higher. But part of it was definitely the defense. His defense was terrible. Everybody knows that Sunday night game against the Red Sox with the 3 errors. So, part of it was him and the defense, but they did not do themselves any favors, banishing him to the minors.
So I got to ask this big question. The Yankees are always known for spending money, getting who they want. With you saying that they passed on Corbin because of money, they passed on Keuchel because of $1 million, do you see this continuing, or do you see them eventually getting back to what they were and getting the guy they really want?
You know what? Unfortunately, I do see it continuing. This is definitely a new regime. You got to remember when George Steinbrenner was running things, there was no analytics department. He had his guys, and it was all on feel and old school and all this. And I think they kind of think, look, we'll assemble a team that's going to win, 95 games, maybe 100. We'll get to the playoffs, and we'll see what happens. A lot of these analytically based organizations, they just kind of think, let's get to the playoffs, and the playoffs are a crapshoot. Which is true to an extent, but you'd rather have the best team possible. And you're looking ahead. The name that everybody's going to be talking about this winter, Garrett Cole. Yep. The Yankees drafted Garrett Cole in 2008. They tried to trade for him at the end of 2017. Another stud pitcher, that they passed on. I don't see them shelling out, 180 million, 200 million to sign Garrett Cole. I think they'll kind of hang around that mid-level market like they did with signing J.A. Happ, bringing in James Paxton and his contract. I just don't see them giving out these max-type deals. And, you go back, the last splurge they really had was, McCann, Tanaka, and Ellsbury after 13. And then, before that, it was CC, Teixeira, and Burnett after 08. But other than that, they really haven't had many splurges the past 10 years.
So, Nick, I just want to get to one last question before we let you go. Cashman has been amazing finding position players, bolstering the bullpen. But what is it with him not signing big-name pitchers to the front of the rotation and not putting up big money for big-name pitchers to the front of the rotation? Because it just doesn't seem like he wants to sign them or trade prospects for them at all. At all. It's just frustrating because you don't want to have the best farm system, right? That's not the name of the game. You want to win World Series. And it seemed like Cashman's content with having a great farm system and winning 100 games and maybe losing in the ALCS.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. Look, starting pitching has been his Achilles heel kind of forever. Let's go all the way back to 2004. He let Andy Pettit walk, and then he signed Javier Vazquez. He trades for Kevin Brown. They flame out, and obviously more recently, Sonny Gray, flamed out. James Paxton, that trade does not look good. J.A. Happ has been terrible. He's never really been great with starting pitchers, and you look, they could have signed Scherzer after 2014. They could have traded for Chris Sale. There's so many guys that he could have had, and then obviously more recently Corbin, Keuchel, and Cole. That's almost 10 all-star pitchers that he's, for whether it be prospects, whether it be money, fit, whatever, that he hasn't gone out and gotten. And it kind of sucks because, the Sonny Gray trade at the time, everybody loved it. They were like, it's a great move. He's got postseason experience. He's battle-tested. And, he went for it. And obviously we know how that turned out. So the few times that he has kind of taken a shot, taken a risk, it hasn't worked out. And the guys that he's passed on have done really well. So, I agree. It's a bad look starting pitching-wise.
And Nick, if you want, you can drop your social media now. I just followed you. I've been following Bronx Pinstripes for a couple years now. Good source of information. I also love the games that they buy out, a whole section. I think it's 223.
Yes, you guys got to come out.
Yeah, I've came to one. I'm gonna bring these losers out there, even though they're not Yankee fans. But where can we find you on Twitter, Nick?
At NKirby NYY. NKIRBY. NYY is my Twitter handle. Go follow me. Go follow Bronx Pinstripes. And guys, really appreciate you having me on.
Thanks, Nick. We appreciate your time. We'll definitely get you on before the season's over.
LGM, baby.
Nah, don't LGM.
Had to throw that in.
Disregard the LGM. Pinstripe pride. Pinstripe pride. Thanks, Nick. Thanks for coming on.
Yanks. All right.
Well, there you have it.
He was cool.
Another good interview. We have about 5 minutes. Your thoughts on the trade deadline before we go?
I thought that Houston clearly put themselves in a position to be the clear favorite, and barring any injuries, I would expect them to be in the World Series.
Get the fuck out of here.
I was like, your thoughts on the trade?
Who else is it gonna be?
Listen, it's pretty simple, man. Again, like
You
I
didn't
said,
hear the guy say? Pitchers
I
fail during the playoffs.
like I said to
Gotta get pitchers.
like I said to Nick Kirby, man. Yankees had listen. They
Wait, what
they
did
had
what did you
opportunities.
say? Nick Gates?
They what did you say?
Jesus
No,
Christ, Nick Christ.
you know what?
And you were stumbling.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. In my mind,
What do you
You know why?
What do you say? What do you say from Yankees pride?
I say Yankees pride.
Roll the tape. Roll the tape. Go to the tape.
Listen, in my mind was Kirby Yates. That's
pretty
what
Kirby Yates.
I'm thinking of the closer, Kirby Yates. That's
Listen, I think it came and went, and listen, obviously everybody was looking to see what the Yankees were going to do, and they didn't do anything, so it's kind of like a dud. But yeah, Astros came to swoop in, and they got Greinke, and we'll see, man. It should be interesting, so should be interesting.
So a little teaser for Sunday's show before we go. Michael Thomas signed the big contract, so that has to deal with the NFL NFC South. New Orleans Saints. We are going to have a Carolina Panthers blogger to talk about that and more. Like I said, we're going to try to roll interviews from different sports, things that are going on. I know we're funny and we like to talk, but it's also good to bring these guys on. So Sunday, we'll see you then. Carolina Panthers blogger. Dave's gonna be at Point Pleasant with the family. You know, I don't know, getting hit by waves and shit like that.
I'm a family man. I mean,
he's a fan.
what am I saying?
He's a family man.
I got a beautiful daughter. Shout out to my daughter, Isabel Olivia Quinones. I love you, my heart.
Only because she's beautiful and we like her. I let you say that.
Yeah.
But that's our show. We'll see you guys Sunday. Thanks for tuning in.
Peace. Love you, baby.
We're already down 1-0. Go get the paper. Go.